What's up, guys? Um, a second. Um, all right, good morning, guys. Today is Wednesday, November 8th, and as usual, doing analysis for US 30, gold, and EU. So here, real quick, gold, I want us to observe. So my bearish bias for US 30 is, I'm sorry, my daily bias for US 30 is bullish. Gold is bearish. EU is bullish. And I like this rejection of EU from the daily SAR. Gold, the US dollar bearish. Also keep in mind, Jerome Powell just finished speaking a little bit before this meeting, before market open. But anyway, looking at the zones we have for US 30 on the 30-minute time frame, regarding SAR zones, we unless price comes all the way back down here, you can see we don't really have anything on the 30-minute. On the 15-minute, I don't see anything as well. On the 15-minute, there's nothing based off of where price is. So I don't see us getting any trade setups for US 30. Gold is ideally the same thing. I think gold is forming 1962.4, 61.7. Okay, so this is a new double SAR zone right here, but we would have to wait for like 30 minutes for this trade. There's another one up here on the 30-minute. There really isn't much. I'm trying not to expand my lines too much. So gold, probably this sell, but also I'm looking for this buy. And I'll go over the setup for that buy, but I would rather take the buy on gold. This is based off of a 4-hour momentum, because if you can imagine it, this was manipulation. So manipulated price, and you see they were creating like a higher highs and higher lows up there. So I think this is still manipulation, which is why I wanted to wait till market open. But anyway, even looking for sales, there's nothing, no sell area for gold for right now. For EU, EU is lining up for a nice buy, because if you remember, we have that rejection off of the daily SAR. So EU might actually jump up from here. So these are 30-minute zones, 15-minute zones on EU, unless EU gets up here. Okay, so nothing as for EU right now. On the higher time frames, all of these are 4-hour zones. So if I remember correctly, these are 4-hour SARs right here. There's a 4-hour one and there's a 1-hour one. But price would have to come back down here for any entry. For gold, EU is creating an hourly. So all of these entries are probably going to come up like much later. So EU, there's this one. On the hourly, this zone right here is a 4-hour zone on EU. This one is a 4-hour zone, and it's nothing. So it would have probably be like a test and rejection. So this would have to wait for another 4 hours. So for the live session, gold is to look at. So I'm either looking for a sell down here, and I don't know why this thing is. Yeah, so it's either we're going to get the sell down here or the buy up here. So at this point, we just have to wait and see which one of those trade setups line up. Oh, I forgot to go over the momentum. So that momentum buy is based off of gold on the 4 hour. So if you guys go to gold on the 4 hour time frame, and then remember here, since you're on the 4 hour time frame, you would apply the moving average filter. So it's this buy right here. So this buy, of course, is invalid. This one down here because it was the lowest candle of the retracement. This buy is valid because price is above the moving average. The previous 1 to 3, either of the previous 1 to 3 candles had rejected off of an SAR, excuse me. So the low of that candle, that's when the buyer stepped in on the 4 hour time frame. So that's the zone that I've marked up, 1963.8. So it should be 63.8-ish. So when price gets up here, so we'll do what the same thing we did yesterday for the gold buy. We'll just wait for price to get up here. And then when price gets here, we'll move to the 1 minute and find a sell entry on the a buy entry based off of the momentum indicator. Either that or here we can possibly get a break and continuation for a sell. So we just have to be patient. So it's either this right here. So it's either that. I think this will come first. So I know it's against the daily bias, but remember, the daily bias is only pertinent to the SAR strategy. The momentum strategy does not need you to have the daily bias. Also, a big reason I use daily bias is because I don't like doing buys and sells at the same time. But that also is geared towards the SAR strategy. I don't like doing SAR buy and an SAR sell at the same time. So these entries are based off of two different strategies. The bottom one is based off of the SAR, and this top one is based off of momentum. So I'll just mark these zones up right here. So this would be a possible break and continuation sell entry. So that's what this is based off of. So today might be similar to yesterday where we barely had any volume in the market. This would have been such a nice momentum buy, but this buy was invalid right here because it was the lowest candle of the move. And if EU is pumping up and these other instruments are pumping up, you would expect some sort of pump up for gold if it's to move similar to EU. So today is going to be a lot of patience because price is more than likely going to range between this zone. So you can see price is trapped between these two zones. So it's a game of patience because you don't want to rush into anything and get faked out. So you might as well just wait for validation. So this candle, the would-be break candle did not close below here. So at this point, I go ahead and delete this. So it's either for this zone. So this zone is still static. It's still present, but since the break candle, the candle that would have been the break candle closed within this zone, we would want either to wait for a test and rejection, since now price is at the bottom. So we'll probably need to wait for a test and rejection entry, or would need for price to break back up and then come back down and do like a break and continuation entry. So again, just today is just a game of patience. Um, Also, we don't have volatility in the market, so that sucks. What else? Yeah, this live session might not be a long one. Because we don't have anything for US 30. Gold is the only thing, but gold is also just not moving really in any way. Gold should be pumping any moment. Uh, just gotta wait for it. But keep in mind also, right? The daily bars for gold and EU are also opposite of each other. So it may not keep pumping, or it may not reverse to pump. Let me think this through actually. Give me 1 second. Yes. So if we are waiting for the momentum here, then we would need this. Would need the green ones. And we would come here. This is the 5. We'd come here. This is the 1. Okay. This is 30 minutes. That would be break and continuation, possible break and continuations by, and this one you'd need to wait for the continuation candle to close. Oh, which reminds me, no, actually I won't draw this. So what I've been doing, sometimes you'll find, let me delete this zone. Sometimes you'll find 3 lines that are together. So at some point I used to do like triple SARs, but nowadays I'm just focusing on double SARs. So if I have a zone that has like an odd number of SAR zones, I will pick the most optimal level. So in this case, because you see like how previously I drawn that as an SAR level, the top 2 SARs and then the bottom 2 SARs. So these are like 2 separate ones. So one thing, as I'm trying to also refine the entries, if I have an odd number of SARs, I pick the most optimal zone. So here, I would go ahead and delete this top one, because if I got a break and continuation or test and rejection of the top SAR, there's also another bottom SAR which might be worth, or if you're looking to buy, of course you'd want to buy lows. And if you're looking to sell, that's you'd of course want to sell highs. But you don't have to do it like me. I mean, it was working the way we were doing it. But what I've realized during consolidation, if you start going to these lower time frames, you will see a bunch of SARs in some zones, and it might be confusing trying to figure out which ones you're going to draw. Like, for example, gold was a good example when I was drawing the SARs this morning. So once we start getting back up here, it gets tricky. Which SAR are you going to draw? So that's why in some of these zones, you might see that I haven't drawn some SAR zones. So in this case, like the one at the very top, I drew it because that's the optimal sell one. So I just came up with that just as I found once we start getting, for example, in gold, if gold starts coming back to 1985, it will be kind of difficult during those SAR zones. So if the SARs are an odd number, just pick the most optimal one. So same thing I just did with EU here on that 30-minute time frame. Instead of drawing both the top and the bottom, I just draw the bottom one. In this case, assuming, I think this one is a 15-minute one, but assuming we had 4 SARs right here, I would just draw the top 2 and the bottom 2, but I wouldn't draw, like, for example, the second and the third one as a zone as well. So that also gives you like spacing between those zones you're drawing. So if we are to, or personally, if I'm to ignore this top, I mean, it's still a double SAR, but it's not the optimal one. So if I'm to ignore it, then this bottom one, unless price comes back down and does like a test and rejection, there's nothing there for it. So here you might get a break and continuation on the 30-minute, but this 30-minute candle has to close. We have a 15-minute zone. So same thing you can see here. We have 1, 2, 3 SARs, but I just drew the top two. So in any case, I can just do this bottom two, because the bottom one, if it's a buy, that's the optimal zone. So this again would be like a break and continuation, but we would need 2 candles to close there. Hmm. Oh, never mind. So for this one, if gold closes down here, and we still want to catch, so remember this top one is momentum trade. This bottom one is just an SAR zone. So if gold closes down here, we would have to wait for then a possible test and rejection. So that would have to be like in another 30 minutes, because this is a 15-minute time frame. Yeah, I wish we had something on US 30. Even on this higher time frames. Let me redraw these zones. Starting off with the 4-hour. So this top one is 137.5. Nope, that's not doesn't meet the 20 pip threshold. So this top one, 138, 137, 123. So there's 2 double SARs, but just the same thing I gave you with the example on gold. If you have odd number of SARs, no need to draw both of them, just draw the most optimal one. So you can see here on the 4-hour time frame, we have 3 SARs. So one can, based off of I was drawing them previously, this can be 2 doubles, but it just clutters your chart. So I just delete the top one, and since I'm looking for a buy, this bottom one is the most optimal one. So that's a 4-hour one. If we go down to the 1 hour, go down to the 1 hour. Nope. So 1 hour, this one is at 151, 131. So in the 1 hour, this is a double as well. Now here in the 1 hour, this is 174. So this should be at least 154. So nope, those do not. So this top 2. So that's the same idea, right? So here you see I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So instead of drawing one, two, three zones, like for example, adding another zone here, which would also clutter my chart and kind of make it hard to see what zone I'm trading, I just get rid of the middle one and just draw the top two zones. So now if I go to, and you can see that's how I'd done it before, and that's why I just decided to redraw it. So if I go back, you'll see that we know that this is an hourly, and actually there was an hourly entry. This is an hourly double SAR. This is a, what was that? This is an hourly as well, and this is a 4 hour. So you can see here, this was a break and continuation, but of course, even for that, it's not one I would have taken because price was overextended. So this is one of those I would have waited for a retracement. So here I'm interested in seeing if anyone who would have taken that trade would have been at a 1:1 risk to reward. So this person who took this trade is already at a 1:1 risk to reward. So at this point, there's no need of waiting for a retracement. But you can see just by redrawing the SAR zones and just using that logic of not, of choosing the most optimal zone, especially where you are in a place where SARs are overlapping, it actually makes the chart a bit clear and we kind of know what we're trading. Because before I did this, you guys remember there was like another zone in there. So it was kind of hard to see what zones those were. See something. Hey, Audrey, I'll go ahead and turn off those accounts. There's not a lot of volatility now.
Makes
It's already
sense.
10. Yeah. I'm almost done with phase 2, man. Just need 1K. Make sure. Okay. All right. So EU on the hourly time frame. Turn this off. EU on the hourly time frame. This is a break and continuation, but you have to wait for another hourly candle for this hourly candle to close. So this is a break and continuation entry, and I think liquidity is coming in the market. So this would be possible break and continuation for EU. Break and continuation but you'd need to wait for the next hour. So for me, still 0 trades for me today. And given that my risk per trade nowadays is 1%, I'm not in a rush to take any trades. So for this one right here, if you're trading this SAR zone, because there was nothing on gold for the 30-minute time frame. On the 30-minute time frame, there was nothing. Even though you extend the SARs, there's nothing. So we only had this 15-minute zone based off of where gold is. So for any sell on gold, this would have to be a test and rejection entry. So price would need to come back up here, give you a test and rejection entry, which might take maybe another 30 minutes or 45 minutes. US 30, I don't know, this zone, I'm surprised it only has a single SAR. I mean, it probably has some from way, way back, but I really don't like going too far back. But looks like there was one right here. But if I do this, I'm literally trying to to just find a trade. If you extend from way back, which makes sense based off of how price is moving in this area. there is a double SAR there from way back. One is from way back. But I do not like, that's 34,179. So actually it is lining up for a test and rejection. Reset chart view. Yeah, based off of the fact that I had to get that other SAR like from however long ago that was. I mean, this would be a test and rejection entry. But if it closes, I'm not gonna take that trade. If this zone lines up with anything, actually, never mind. It's not a test and rejection. I was looking at the wrong candle. This would be the test candle. And no, never mind. Give me 1 second. I know what I'm looking for now. This is tricky. Test and rejection buy. So if we go back, let me think this through. If we go back, I want to see that candle, that test. So this candle, that's your test candle. The next candle would be the rejection candle, and it closes above. So the entry would have been up here, but of course that's a red flag. So you'd come here. Of course that would have been a red flag, right? So you'd wait for a retracement, but you're also interested in the person who took the trade upon validation. Where would they achieve a 1:1 risk to reward? So the person who took the trade upon validation, of course, they would be in drawdown and almost got stopped out. So at this point, price has retraced back into our zone or into that zone. So the idea here would be now to go to the 1 minute time frame and find an entry. So it's not a red flag. It's just a preference for me that I don't like finding SARs from like way back. I like trading SARs that are on my screen. So it's not like a red flag. It's just more of like a preference for me. But for here, if we go down to the 1 minute time frame, we would want to find a 1 minute SAR entry. So let's see if we get that. So if we get a 1 minute one, you'd want for 2 consecutive candles to close. So at this point, personally, the math I'm doing in my head, since I know I have like up to 2 trades, up to 2 back-to-back losses I can take in a day, I'm trying to weigh my options and see what other trades are lining up for the day. If only US 30 presents itself, then yes, I'm willing to take that trade. But if I do see that maybe later on in the day, like this EU setup may line up, and I don't see any gold entry on the higher time frames. So this is a 4-hour setup. By the time this setup lines up, it will be past my trading times. So the potential trades I have personally that I would take is this EU setup on the hourly time frame. So I like this EU hourly buy. I like this gold buy based off of the momentum. And I do like this US 31. So I think the ones I would like to take, it's mostly gold and EU. So you can see that gives me 3 trades, 3 possible trade setups. The others I didn't have to extend the SAR. So for this particular one, we'll see. If it does line up, I can take it. Actually, I will take it, and then I'll just have to observe EU. So this trade will take like an hour either to validate or not. So we'll see if we get that 1 minute setup or that 1 minute entry for US 30. If we do get it, then yes. So this looks similar to yesterday. So if you guys remember, we took a similar trade yesterday, but because there wasn't any volatility in the market, it took a while for a live SAR to be created, which seems like is the same thing that's happening today. So there goes that live SAR. So for this one, we would need 2 consecutive 1 minute candles to close above here. So remember here, we were waiting for the retracement down here. And if you're waiting for a retracement, price has to touch your zone right there. So it touched the zone and then is pulling back up. So you just need two consecutive candles to close above live SAR. So I'll just prep my, and looking at gold structure, gold might actually bounce from here. If gold breaks 1957, that's it for gold. It should dip. So it should still be going in the direction of daily bias. So here we need two consecutive 1 minute candles to close above this live SAR for any buy on US 30. You can see gold is dipping. So this is another reason why I don't trade post pre New York. So this was a good zone, but you can see if you took this momentum area, because I'm pretty sure there were setups on the 1 minute for it, you would have been stopped out. So this is exactly why I like waiting for post New York, because most of the times, even though an area has been validated post New York, it just shows you where price might come back to pick up liquidity during New York session. Uh, and more times than not, it does come back and tap into those static zones. And then you would ideally have sometimes little to no drawdown. So that's why I like personally waiting for New York to take some of these setups. Now here, if we go back to the 15 minutes, the other thing you can do for this zone, you can wait for a new setup. So you can wait for a new test and rejection entry to be set up, because you can see this right here, this candle is also offering like a possible test and rejection for future. So you can wait for a new setup if you are not inclined to take the 1 minute. So that's another possible thing you can do. So here, this is the last possible, actually second to last possible candle that would have to start pumping, because if this candle closes below and then the next candle, actually if the next candle closes below, yeah, if the next candle closes below, there's no way we are going to get a setup for this SAR. So that's fine. If US 30 wants to keep dropping, no biggie for that, because if it keeps dropping, it will just keep creating sell SARs. And then when it's time to move back up, it will create a live SAR where price can start pumping from. So the next 1 minute candle, if the next 1 minute candle closes below this live SAR, then that's it. We wouldn't have two consecutive candles closing above here. But if this candle closes above here, then we probably we still have some hope to get a break and continuation of this same live SAR. But if this one closes below, then that's it. We would have to wait for a new live SAR to be formed. What are my other favorite pairs to trade? Hmm. Yeah. Unless you guys have any questions, that will be it for this live session. The market is literally just moving sideways. Um, even for gold, there's nothing. Even for the SAR entry, there's no break and continuation. There was no test and rejection. So right now, there's really nothing. But if you remember, right, gold on the higher time frame, the next step for gold, because I do see this as a head and shoulder pattern. Overall, gold should come back down to 1820. It might take a while, but the first stop for gold would be 1930, 1930, 1919. Once it breaks that, comes back to 1870. It might do a reversal at 1860. So here you can also start thinking of a trend line. So if they are to do a trend line, because it doesn't have to come back all the way down to 1818. So possible lows is during this little retracements you guys saw on the way up. So probably 1918, 1920 before any upswing on gold. 1873, worst case, it comes back down to complete structure all the way to 1820. But gold definitely on the daily time frame is a sell. That is an obvious head and shoulder pattern. But it doesn't mean that gold will automatically just sell back to back to back. But if you guys have an EA, now is the time to be doing sales only on gold. Again, mine is I still need to do some more finishing touches on it on the legal side. So yeah, but I'm pretty sure you guys have access to other ears. But if you have access to other ears, if I was you, I would just be doing sales only for gold, especially since we have this daily SAR from yesterday. And if you actually started doing that overnight, you'd have been banking on this whole move down for gold. But unless there's any other questions, I don't see anything else. If a live 1 minute SAR forms on US 30, I will be taking that buy. Or I can just wait for this other setup. So whichever comes first, because keep in mind, we can get a test and rejection. So there goes, right? So there goes that test and rejection. So this is a possible test and rejection. Our test candle has just closed. So you would need test and rejection buy. You would need this candle to close. Hopefully closes here. If not, you can wait for a retracement, but this is another possible test and rejection setup. But if that 1 minute does, if we do get another live 1 minute SAR, I will be taking that. The reason I don't think US 30 will come back. So keep in mind, we are headed to the last 2 months of the year. And if you see how many times we've rejected from this zone, so this is a critical support area for US 30. So even though this rejection candle closes and you're waiting for a retracement, I'm not too positive that price will retrace again to this zone. And let's look at what's here. So there's no order blocks. And if you guys remember, this was the same area. I think we did trade this area yesterday because I remember price breaking, coming from the daily bearish high and breaking and closing above the Friday high and Monday high. And we do also have an hourly bullish high. So it's going to take a lot. And I know we do have some sellers here, but we have an hourly order block as well. And we have buyers. So it's going to take a lot for sellers to break this structural zone on US 30. But if you have the patience, I think probably waiting for this new possible test and rejection, a new trade setup would be safer. So for me, whichever comes first, because this setup is either going to be validated or invalidated in 8 minutes. And either way, it's either I'm going to get the 1 minute a little bit before then or afterwards. So the 1 minute entry might actually line up with the new 15-minute entry. But if it comes up, I will be taking that and we'll see. I may send it in the Discord if I do get the trade set up for it. But other than that, I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Trade safe. Peace.